What makes a clown? Is it the children's birthday parties? What about the silly hair or the makeup? Is it the blood-stained clothes or the sharp teeth? What about a penchant for child abuse or just eating children in general? Whatever the answer, we here at Blood and Cuts care about your children. That's why we found it so important to compare two of the most iconic clowns in our world today in a winner-take-all battle to the death to see who would come out victorious.
Welcome back to the program.
The suspect was last seen wearing a black and white clown costume.
I like seeing the clown.
Who is Pennywise? On the surface, Pennywise is a clown that's terrorized the town of Derry, Maine for centuries.
91 people signed the charter that made Derry, but later that winter, they all disappeared without a trace.
And the death and destruction in Derry went from there.
This is the old ironworks. One Sunday back in 1930, the ironworks exploded and all these people got killed. This is the Derry sandpipe. It supplied all the water to the town until a big disaster back in 1900.
Pennywise doesn't just cause chaos and destruction, he also eats the people of Derry, targeting their children in particular.
There's missing kids. Derry's not like any town I've ever been in before. People die or disappear 6 times the national average. And that's just grown-ups. Kids are worse. Way worse.
Beginning in the 20th century, Pennywise becomes preoccupied with the Lucky Seven, or the Losers Club, a group of 7 children that form a bond through shared trauma and loneliness. Pennywise becomes hell-bent on devouring the Lucky Seven, likely because he knows they're capable of destroying him.
He's scared of us, you know? I can feel that. I swear to God I can.
Most importantly, Pennywise feeds off of fear.
You all taste so much better when you're afraid.
Pennywise uses this to his advantage, utilizing people's fear to manipulate and coerce them, and cause them to see what he wants them to see. That which is most often their worst fear. And then there's Art the Clown. On the surface, Art is a clown that terrorizes Miles County and its surrounding areas for 2 Halloweens in a row.
It was a real guy who murdered 9 people last year.
Art kills his victims in extremely sadistic and mean-spirited ways. He seems to derive great pleasure from all manner of horrific things, even if they're not caused by him, a concept that'll become important in a moment. Art is very much an exhibitionist. He loves having an audience for his sick, twisted deeds, and gains immense joy from watching others suffer. Most importantly, at the end of Art's first massacre in Miles County, he offs himself. Let's recap what we know so far. Pennywise the Clown has caused chaos and destruction in the town of Derry for centuries. He eats people, particularly children, and feeds off their fear.
Tasty, beautiful fear.
Art the Clown terrorizes Miles County, committing some of the most heinous murders imaginable, and commits suicide at the end of his first massacre. So, while Pennywise feeds off of fear and uses that power to manipulate people and cause them to hallucinate, Art revels in chaos and depravity, even when it isn't his own, and clearly doesn't afraid of anything. Not even death itself. Were Pennywise to encounter Art the Clown, assuming they would behave as adversaries rather than long-lost lovers, Pennywise would have a very difficult time gaining any power over Art because Art wouldn't fear him. Score 1 for Art the Clown. But let's dig deeper, shall we?
Man, I've been in this cell for 27 years. Just seeing what it wanted me to.
As previously detailed, Pennywise has the ability to cause people to see what he wants them to see.
I know your moves, you little bitch.
This sometimes comes in the form of hallucinations. But more often than not, it's because of the way Pennywise appears to people. You see, Pennywise isn't really a clown. He's not even really a person. Pennywise is actually just one of many forms taken on by an ancient cosmic entity known as It. According to the Stephen King novel, though never explicitly stated in the films or the miniseries, It is a creature that is billions of years old, who originated in a void both containing and surrounding the known universe. According to the novel, its true form cannot be comprehended by the human mind, with the closest approximation to it being described as an endless crawling hairy thing made of light and nothing else, a nightmare spider from beyond time and space. This description of It as a spider-like creature is alluded to in both It Chapter 2 as well as the miniseries based on the novel. And while this information will become extremely important in the latter part of the video, it's pertinent to cover these things now as they relate to its abilities, because there is no Pennywise. At least not really. See, It is a shapeshifter, a creature that can change its physical form at will. It uses this ability against its potential victims, shapeshifting into whatever they fear the most. This is why Pennywise exists. He's merely a persona It uses to lull its victims into its grasp. Which means that there is no Pennywise versus Art the Clown. Rather, It, the trans-dimensional shape-shifting monster versus Art the Clown, is much more appropriate. And, as vicious and brutal and mean-spirited as Art the Clown is, from everything we've learned about It, including the fact that It can shapeshift into any form, it doesn't seem likely that Art would be able to endure. And with the fact that It pulls no punches when it transforms, sometimes even growing to the size of buildings, it would seem that we'd be looking at a total knockout of Art the Clown in round 2. Courtesy of It. It would seem that the battle would end in the second round, with the complete annihilation of Art the Clown. Except, Art has a backstory too. It's difficult to tell when the Art the Clown saga begins, as the first Terrifier picks up midway through Art's story. However, we may be able to gather some info about Art's origin from a film that was created before both Terrifier films. That film is called All Hallows Eve, and while it's never been confirmed that All Hallows Eve is canon to the Terrifier franchise, both Terrifier films seem to provide enough allusions to All Hallows Eve for them to at least be tangentially connected, if not existing in the same universe entirely. So, if we are to take All Hallows Eve as an indication of Art's origin, there's a few things we can gather from it right from the start, namely, Art's relationship with Satan himself. You see, All Hallows Eve is an anthology film, and in the first segment, Art the Clown is shown to be a servant of Satan, bringing women to him to be used in a satanic ritual. Throughout the film, Art's features morph and distort, and his eyes are shown glowing in the train station, so it's safe to assume something supernatural is going on. And, because of Art the Clown's relationship with the Dark Lord himself, we can surmise that Satan is the one behind these supernatural occurrences, which brings us to the Terrifier films. As previously explained, Art the Clown commits at the end of Terrifier, except the same night he's resurrected in the morgue by an unknown force. Similarly, Terrifier 2 sees Art once again killed, only to be resurrected in the most revolting way possible. So who's behind these resurrections? Terrifier 2 has led some to believe that the Pale Girl is behind them, and in some ways, the film alludes to this. The problem is that the Pale Girl isn't an entity or a supernatural force. She's a victim. And her eyes glow like Art's in All Hallows Eve, and Victoria Hayes, a victim of Art's and now his new mom. So, if we couple what we've learned with the fact that Satan from All Hallows Eve seems to have been drawn by Sienna and Jonathan's father, with him even drawing Sienna holding Satan's decapitated head rather than Art's, it becomes fairly obvious that Satan is in charge in both All Hallows Eve as well as the Terrifier films, and is the cause of Art's resurrections. So, while it's likely that it would completely decimate Art the Clown in the second round, round 3 would see Art resurrected by the Prince of Darkness. But, since Satan seems to be simply using Art for some grandiose, mysterious plan, it, the trans-dimensional shape-shifting monster, versus Satan seems much more appropriate. And this is where things get weird. It, or the creature formerly known as Pennywise, only directly appears in the titular novel, but is referenced multiple times throughout Stephen King's catalog of books. This is because King's novels all exist within their own multiverse, and within that multiverse there's one being that reigns supreme. That being is called Gon. Gon is said to have created not only the Stephen King multiverse and everything within it, but the Dark Tower as well, the center of space and time in the Stephen King multiverse, and the structure that holds all of its infinite universes together. Gon has an arch-nemesis called the Crimson King. The Crimson King wants to destroy the Dark Tower, thereby throwing the multiverse and its infinite universes into chaos and destruction, which he believes will allow him to refashion the multiverse to his own liking. And if this sounds familiar, well, that's by design. See, Gon is implied to have created our own universe as well, which means that Gon is actually God, or at least what we humans refer to as God. To further illustrate this point, we can see that Gon speaks through the Khan Kala, or what humans call angels. So, if Gon is God, then that means the Crimson King must be, that's right, the Dark Lord himself, that old serpent we call Satan. The character Susanna Dean from the Dark Tower series illustrates this point further when she says humans see the Crimson King as a horned, red-skinned monster called Satan. So, if Satan exists in both the Stephen King multiverse as well as the Terrifier universe, then is it possible that there's already a connection between Pennywise and Art the Clown? Well, if you've made it this far, then stick with me a little longer, cause this is where shit gets crazy. See, the Crimson King is said to be able to wield the Deadlights at his disposal. The Deadlights are a dangerous and eldritch form of energy which composes the very life essence of it. But how can Satan, or the Crimson King, wield the very thing that it is made of? Well, the Stephen King novel Insomnia, which is set in Derry, marks the first appearance of the Crimson King, where he forces others to do his bidding and feeds off of fear. Do you see where this is headed? Just wait.
There's more! More? Much more! Woo!
The Crimson King is also known as the Scuttling Spider King and the Lord of Spiders. In the novel Insomnia, the Crimson King shapeshifts into the hero's worst fear and says, "I can be whatever I want. Shape-changing is a time-honored custom in Derry." Still not convinced? The Crimson King calls himself the Eater of Worlds. And who else says that?
I am the Eater of Worlds.
That's right. It is the Crimson King. Or more precisely, the Crimson King is in control of it. And while this has neither been confirmed nor denied by Stephen King, the mounting evidence seems to speak for itself. But because the Crimson King is Satan, there really is no Pennywise or Art the Clown or it or even the Crimson King. There's only... See, it doesn't really matter if you call him Satan or the Crimson King, as he goes by many names. What does matter is that it's the same malevolent entity that's responsible for the events in both the Pennywise universe as well as the Terrifier universe. And if you think this is far-fetched, remember that the Crimson King is said to force others to do his bidding, which sounds like what he may be doing with Pennywise and what Satan is doing with Art the Clown. Is it because they're one and the same? Two clowns on the same satanic mission? Well, let's see. They're both clowns, and both their features morph. They both have supernatural abilities, and they're both immortal, at least by, human standards. They both eat people, and children in particular. They both enjoy terrorizing their victims, and they both seem to be part of some great overarching story that we, the audience, aren't fully aware of. And they're both on a mission given to them by the same evil entity. So you can call them what you want, and it doesn't matter which name you choose, because they're all the same. Hell, they even have the same glowing eyes.
That's right. And you will too, Henry. Make it a wonderful day. Kill him.
And while the real answer to the age-old question of Pennywise versus Art the Clown may see the two locked in an infinite battle of decimation and resurrection, I'd like to think that if they met, they wouldn't fight each other, that they're one and the same. Two clowns on the same path with the same mission: destroy everything. And because of this, if they did meet, maybe, just maybe, they really would act like long-lost lovers. Okay, so obviously this video isn't meant to be taken too seriously, and is mostly for entertainment purposes. But because I can't find anyone else talking about this concept, I figured I should, because the pieces just fit together so well. And that's why I made this video, to let people know that Stephen King inadvertently created a multiverse in which Art the Clown's story can not only be taking place, but could even be related to the larger story of the Dark Tower. And by making Art a clown, giving his characters glowing eyes, and making Satan be the one behind the scenes pulling the strings, Damien Leone reinforced that connection, strengthened those ties, and made universes collide simply by accident.